Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, it's a great honor to be here with you today. The crash of the Berlin Wall 25 years today symbolized the beginning of a new era, of a new political order. It marked the end of the occupation of Eastern Europe by the Soviet Union and the end of the communist domination over many parts of the world. But more than that, the fall of the Berlin Wall became a symbol of hope and marked the start of a decade where the future of Germany and Europe as a whole seemed brighter, freer, and open. 12 years later, though, ladies and gentlemen, on September 11, 2001, another crash happened, the fall of the Twin Towers in New York City. This disaster symbolized, maybe more than anything else, the disintegration of many nation-states and struggle for power of groups that are defined by religion, ethnicity, and often combined with economic disadvantage. It brought to the focus of the Western world the conflict, the deep divide in the global society between the have and the have-nots, between organized, unified nations and fractured fractions fighting each other. The fall of the Twin Tower in the US marked the beginning of a long period, continuing on to the present, of a great economic instability in Europe and developing world. In the Middle East, Africa, and other parts of the developing world, we are witnessing a time of political and economical chaos. Two major events of physical destruction, two crashes, but what a difference in impact and consequences. Let me now turn your attention to yet another era of political and economic chaos, an era that took place here in Europe at the end of the Second World War. At that time, after a long and devastating war, much of Europe was destroyed and much of its governing institutions had to be rebuilt. At that time, there was a clear winner, namely the United States of America and its European allies. In a sense, it was easier at that time to devise a plan to rebuild Europe. The Americans, with their allies in Europe, initiated an ambitious plan, the Marshall Plan, to rebuild Western Europe. The USA dedicated an equivalent of $160 billion over 3 years for the rehabilitation of Europe. With this massive flow of money, it was relatively easy to achieve the reconstruction of Europe, which was mainly physical, rebuilding roads, buildings, bridges, and reviving the European economy. It is in a relatively short time, the destruction of the physical environment was much diminished. In parallel, the countries in Europe engaged in rebuilding their political leadership and their other governing institutions. The Secretary of State, George Marshall, in his speech to graduate class of Harvard University on June 5, 1947, said, "It is logical that the United States should do whatever it is able to do to assist in return of normal economic health to the world, without which there can be no political stability and no assured peace. Our policy is not directed against any country, but against hunger, poverty, desperation, and chaos. Any government that is willing to assist in the recovery will find full cooperation on the part of the United States. Its purpose should be the revival of working economy in the world so as to permit the emergence of political and social conditions in which free institutions can exist." End of quote. Today, as was said before me yesterday and today, we're facing a much more difficult task. The governing institutions in Europe and in the US are all in place, but there is a deep ongoing economic crisis in Europe which is linked to a global financial crisis affecting wealthy nations, including the US, but whose effects ripple throughout the globe. And looking globally, there is a political and social chaos in many other regions of the world. The fall of the Berlin Wall brought a lot of hope to new Europe, a future of unification, open borders, of a democratic and prosperous society. Today, the wall is much more difficult to topple. There is no physical wall to conquer. The wall is social, economical, educational, and ethnical. Young people in Europe, as in many other parts of the world, are faced with almost unprecedented unemployment rates. Many graduates that have obtained high degrees are overqualified for their jobs, if they are lucky enough to find one. Adding to that is the global flux of refugees fleeing oppression, war, discrimination, and poverty in their own countries, who are looking for a better future in the developed countries, including many in Europe. The substantial demographic changes and tensions that come with it add an additional strain and complexity to anyone trying to devise a plan of reversing the current trend and in creating a strong economy that prevents it from happening again. One thing is clear: these problems cannot be solved at a single country level. This problem requires joint effort of the European Union countries and other major global players, including traditional forces like the US, Russia, the UN, but also rising powers like China, India, and others. Addressing the multitude of problems require also a dose of unorthodox thinking, input from various sectors of the community representing various disciplines, and here where I see the special role for the academia. Given the huge difficulty and challenges facing the world today, the academia should have a role not alone, but together with political leadership and other institutional establishment. The academia has tools that can be brought to the table and possibly help in devising steps to respond to the challenges we are facing today. Traditionally, academic research and learning is rooted in critical thinking, in extending the imagination beyond the obvious and accepted, in collaboration between disciplines and countries. All these skills and should be utilized to help us devise innovative, constructive, and yet pragmatic program to bootstrap ourselves from the instability and somewhat grim outlook we are facing. In my mind, education is a crucial element. We need to invest in it to give the youth of today a better hope for their future. In the face of fragmented and divided society with alienated minorities, building bridges throughout collaborative research and international programs could have an important role. To allow this to happen, though, we need the long-term commitment of political leadership, including commitment of bringing major financial resources. The EU has long recognized that education has a critical role in reviving the European economy. This was recently expressed in a report on key data on education in Europe 2012 that highlighted the need of member states to adjust their education system priority to ensure that all citizens are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and competence needed to meet the challenges and demands of both the workplace and modern life. While these efforts are focused primarily on early education from preschool to high school, I would like to stress the importance of higher education in achieving these goals. One example we can think about is developing training programs to be offered to developing countries and societies within countries. The aim of this plan should be to educate and empower the people with the necessary tools to overcome the problems they face when they return to their local communities. This is a major decision that needs to be taken by the EU institutions, for example, putting it into the agenda of EU 2020, the possibility to develop training programs in areas such as education, medicine, technology, science, public health, etc., and allocating major funding to this end. This is only one example of what the academia brings to the table, and we should ask ourselves how we can best take advantage of this. Clearly, the role of the academia is first and foremost to engage in basic research and education, providing the next generation the best of tools to promote local societies. In today's world, our students are clearly biased in choosing their studies to be able to find jobs and better livelihood. However, we must not forget other disciplines, in particular the humanities, that have lesser connection to sway standard of living. Studying and engaging in research areas such as philosophy, literature, history, and so on is critical to the future existence of human and open society. The academia has the ability and tools to provide the young generation a better horizon, but we cannot work alone, in isolation. We need the cooperation and help, and more than that, the leadership of the political system to devise a plan that will direct us to the 21st century. Let me finish by saying a few words about the place that I come from and my university. The Middle East as a region experienced a much stronger political and economic upheaval. The collapse of old order, and in many countries, no order has been established as of yet. Clearly, people of the region cannot solve their problems alone. We need external help. We at the University of Haifa are building our institutions as world-class research and teaching institution. We continue to establish and promote daily coexistence between all parts of the Israeli society, keeping connection with local communities in the city of Haifa and the northern part of Israel, while also establishing the university as a global institution where students from all over the world can get their education. With 25% of our students' population being Arabs and running many master's and PhD degrees taught in English, we can contribute our small share in making our neighborhood a better place to live in. I'm not here to provide solution to the problems we are facing today. These are problems, if these problems were to be solved by one person or even by one country, they would have been solved a long time ago. The message I'm trying to convey to you all today is that only by understanding that the problems are global, and only if we combine forces of many countries from the EU and outside, these problems will be able to be challenged. The solution must be global, and we at the academia can be partners in this process and offer our help and expertise. But political leadership at the global scale is critical. Thank you very much.